When Jason first saw the sign for my new cafe across the street, he smirked. 2 months later, he was selling his espresso machine on Craigslist. I didn't burn his business down, I just built mine better. Before everything went to hell, I was in love. Not just with Jason, though back then, I would have followed him into the sun, but with our dream. We were going to open a cafe together. Cozy, community-based, the kind of place where regulars had their tables and the baristas knew your name. We called it the Hollow. I designed the logo, a watercolor mug with curling steam, nestled between ivy leaves. Jason loved it. Said it felt like home in a cup. He had the charm. The voice that made every new customer feel like they'd known him for years. I had everything else. I pulled double shifts at my marketing job to fund it. Nights and weekends were spent perfecting muffin recipes in my tiny apartment kitchen, then waking up at 6 a.m. to paint signage by hand because we couldn't afford to outsource yet. I sourced the beans, built the supplier relationships, and coded the first version of the website. I even negotiated our lease. But the paperwork? I let Jason handle that. We're building this together, he'd say, brushing flour off my cheek as I scrubbed muffin batter from under my nails. It's you and me. I believed him. God help me, I really did. Our soft launch was a mess. The espresso machine sputtered, and we ran out of croissants by 10 a.m. But it didn't matter. The locals loved the vibe. Jason knew how to make everyone feel seen. He was our social magnet. And if he spent a little too long laughing at Ashley's jokes at the register? I told myself not to be jealous. She was just a regular. Blonde, always in yoga pants, worked at the real estate office down the block. Friendly but harmless. So I thought. I worked late most nights, adjusting our ordering ratios, fixing inventory issues, managing the books. Jason would lock up around 8, sometimes later. Said he liked to chat with the stragglers. One night I came back to grab my laptop. The lights were dimmed, but the back door was open. I walked in and stopped cold. Ashley's laugh. Jason's voice. God, you're amazing, he said, breathless. I didn't even move. I just turned around and walked out. I don't know if they saw me. The next morning I confronted him. He denied everything. You're being paranoid, he said. It's not like that. I showed him a coffee-stained receipt I'd found in the trash. 2 cocktails, 1 hotel room, last Thursday. You're blowing this out of proportion, he said, eyes narrowing. Don't get emotional. That's when he flipped the switch. If this is such a problem, he said coldly, maybe I should buy you out. You've been wanting to take a step back, haven't you? I blinked. Buy me out. He pulled out a typed document, already drafted. The amount was insulting. Less than what I'd put in to begin with. Don't make this harder than it has to be, he said. I'm offering you a way out. Clean and simple. And that's when I realized. Everything, the lease, the business registration, the email accounts, even the Instagram, was in his name. I had trusted him with the paperwork. And he'd erased me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, the buyout contract open on the counter between us, staring at the blank line where my signature was supposed to go. You're not serious, I finally said. Jason leaned back on the stool, arms crossed like a guy who had rehearsed this in the mirror. Elena, it's just business. You've been overwhelmed. You told me that. Maybe it's time to let go. Let go? Of what? The cafe I had bled into? The brand I had built from scratch while he played charming barista? You cheated on me, I said. That's personal. This is professional. And that? That was the moment I broke. Not in the dramatic, screaming through tears way. No, this was quieter. Sharper. The kind of break that rearranges you. I left the cafe with nothing but my backpack and my car keys. I didn't even take the muffins I baked that morning. I just drove, straight to my friend Maggie's place, where I sat on her floor and told her everything between gulps of wine. She listened silent until I finished. Then she said something I'll never forget. You don't need revenge, Lena. You just need to take back what was already yours. And something clicked. The next few weeks were a blur. I stayed in Maggie's spare room, a tiny sunlit box with a mattress on the floor and a cat that slept on my chest. I cried a lot. I felt stupid, furious, humiliated. I cycled through every stage of heartbreak and betrayal like a Spotify playlist set to shuffle. And then I started planning. Not a takedown. Not a lawsuit. Something quieter. Smarter. I got a job at a local bakery across town. Early hours, low pay, but the owner was kind and let me use the kitchen at night. I reconnected with my old suppliers. Not one of them hesitated when I explained I was starting over. Hell yes, Elena, my bean roaster said. You were the soul of that place. I didn't even have to say Jason's name. They knew. I found a space, just 2 blocks from the hollow, tucked between a plant shop and a nail salon. It was smaller, older, and smelled like mildew the first time I stepped in. But it had potential. God, did it have potential. I spent nights painting the walls myself, sanding down counters, hanging lights from reclaimed wood beams. Maggie helped after work. We played 2000s indie rock and shared greasy takeout while I tested recipes in the back. I named it Lenny's. After my grandfather. After home. I didn't advertise it as my place. Didn't post bitter hashtags. I just focused on the details. The ones that mattered. The warmth in the lighting. The softness of the chairs. The quiet power of good coffee made with care. When we finally opened, it wasn't with a bang. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. Our first customer was an old woman looking for a place to dry off. We made her tea. She stayed for 2 hours and left with a blueberry scone for her husband. I still wasn't sure it would work. Some nights I stared at our empty tip jar and thought, maybe he was right. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I should have signed that buyout and walked away. But then, a local food blogger came in, ordered a flat white and a cranberry pistachio muffin, took one photo of our chalkboard sign, and everything changed. The blog post dropped at 9:42 a.m. on a Thursday. Discovered a little gem of a cafe called Lenny's just off 7th. Think, your grandma's hugs, but with better coffee. Cranberry pistachio muffin changed my life. Go now. By 10:15 we had a line out the door. It wasn't just the regular foodies either. The woman from the flower shop next door came over with her entire staff. 2 local teachers took their lunch breaks early to grab cappuccinos. A guy in a startup hoodie snapped 3 photos of our pastries and asked if we had Wi-Fi. The espresso machine ran nonstop. I burned my hand on the steamer. Maggie handled the register with the wide-eyed adrenaline of someone caught in a really delicious tornado. I didn't stop smiling for 6 straight hours. And when we finally flipped the sign to closed, I sat on the back step with a cinnamon roll in one hand and a glass of water in the other and just breathed. This was happening. It was real. And no one, no man, no mistake, no betrayal could take it away. Meanwhile, Jason's place started wilting. I didn't even need to check his Yelp page. Customers told me. I used to go to the Hollow, but the vibe's different now, one girl said. It's like, flat. A former supplier casually mentioned that Jason had called about restocking, but they were booked. Another came into Lenny's just to tell me, he looks like he's aged 5 years and 2 months. And then, one morning he walked in. It was early. Quiet. Just me and a college student tapping away on her laptop in the corner. Jason didn't speak at first. He just looked around. At the hand-painted sign. The sage green walls. The corkboard of community flyers. The logo on the mugs, my logo, redesigned and re-owned. He finally stepped up to the counter. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. There was no fire in my chest. No rage. Just the dull weight of recognition, like passing a landmark from a bad memory. I heard this place was yours, he said. Figured I'd see it for myself. I nodded. What can I get you? He glanced at the board. Whatever's good. I made him tea. Not coffee. Tea. In a paper cup. He took a sip. Blinked. This is really good. Glad you like it. I slid the cup across. This one's on the house. And that was it. No speeches. No accusations. Just me behind my counter in my space serving the guy who tried to erase me. He looked like he wanted to say more. Maybe he had a script in his head. But it died somewhere between the first sip and the sound of the door opening behind him, more customers. Smiling, laughing, bringing energy that had nothing to do with him. He left. Quietly. Later that week, I saw the Craigslist listing. Espresso machine. Like new. $4,000 OBO. I laughed so hard I snorted powdered sugar onto my apron. After Jason's visit, something settled inside me like a door clicking shut. Not a slam. Not some big dramatic never again kind of thing. Just a quiet final close. He came, he saw, he left. And I was still standing. More than that, I was thriving. The buzz from the food blogger's post didn't die down. It multiplied. 2 weeks later, Lenny's was featured in a top 10 must-visit cafes article. We had to double our bakery orders. I hired a second barista, a retired librarian named Claudia who made latte art shaped like cats. Regulars started leaving handwritten notes on napkins. This place feels safe. Best muffins in the zip code. One said, my divorce was final today. Thanks for the comfort drink. I kept every note. Tucked them into a shoebox behind the counter. Jason? His place was a ghost town. I walked by once not out of spite, just muscle memory. The lights were dim. The open sign flickered like it was giving up. Ashley was nowhere to be seen. Part of me wondered if she'd left him. If she'd figured out what I had, just a little too late. But I didn't linger on it. Because I was building something better. Still, there were nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan in my tiny apartment, wondering if I was enough. Was I only doing well because of the blogger? Was this all just luck? There's a special kind of fear that lives in you after betrayal. The kind that whispers you didn't see it coming last time. What makes you think you'll catch it next time? But every time I stepped into Lenny's, flipped the sign to open, and smelled that first batch of cardamom buns warming in the oven, I remembered why I started. Not to get even. Not to prove a point. To reclaim. To create. One Thursday morning, Claudia came in holding a copy of a neighborhood business journal. You made the front page, she said, sliding it across the counter. There I was standing in front of Lenny's, flower on my cheek, apron crooked. The headline, Resilience Brews in the Heart of the City. Jason's cafe was mentioned, briefly. As a former competitor. He had officially closed. The same day, a young woman came in with a nervous smile. She introduced herself as Maya, a pastry student looking for a part-time role. I've followed your work since the Hollow, she admitted. What you've built here, it's kind of the dream. I hired her on the spot. It was the first time someone used my name, not Jason's, when referencing that place. And it hit me. I hadn't just rebuilt what was taken. I had rewritten the story. The days started to blur in the best way. We weren't just busy. We were alive. Claudia's cat lattes became an Instagram sensation. Maya started experimenting with croissant flavors that made people drive in from 2 towns over. I began hosting Sunday, quiet hours for local writers. No loud talking, no laptops, just notebooks, espresso, and a soft jazz playlist. Lenny's wasn't just a cafe anymore. It was a little refuge. A heartbeat in the neighborhood. I didn't have a blueprint for this. I just followed instinct. Warm colors, open arms, good coffee. I wanted people to walk in and feel held. Which, funny enough, is the opposite of how I used to feel with Jason. It wasn't like he was mean. Jason was smooth. Confident. Charming in that magnetic, look how he remembers your dog's name, kind of way. But looking back, I realized he only made space for things that reflected him. When I talked about new menu ideas, he'd say, maybe, but people like what they already know. When I wanted to host art shows or poetry nights, it was, let's not turn the cafe into a hobby hub, babe. And when I caught him cheating, when I held up the receipt like evidence in a courtroom, he looked me in the eye and said, you're being dramatic. I wasn't. I was just done shrinking. Of course, it hadn't been easy. There was a week, maybe 2 months after we opened, when everything felt like it might crash. An invoice got lost in my email. The fridge died overnight and spoiled all the dairy. Rent was due and our Thursday foot traffic dried up like a popped bubble. I sat on a flour sack in the storage room at 2 a.m., staring at numbers that didn't make sense. I can't do this, I whispered to the empty air. What if I fail again? Maggie found me the next morning, still wearing my apron, mascara smudged halfway down my face. She didn't say, I told you so. She just handed me a cinnamon bun and said, eat this. You can't panic on an empty stomach. That same day, a family of 5 came in after a funeral. Still in their dark clothes. Quiet, tired, grieving. They ordered coffee and pastries and sat at the back table for almost 2 hours. When they left, the mother squeezed my hand. I don't know why we came in here, she said. But I'm glad we did. That was the moment I decided I wasn't quitting. A week later, we made rent. Then payroll. Then we started turning a profit. It wasn't luck. It was sweat and stubbornness. It was not giving up, even when no one would have blamed me if I had. Jason never contacted me again. No apology. No message. No attempt to twist the knife one last time. Maybe he figured there was no point. Or maybe, and this is what I like to believe, he finally understood. He hadn't built a coffee shop. He had borrowed a vision. And when that vision left, all he had was an empty room and an overpriced espresso machine. Me? I had Lenny's. I had warmth, purpose, and a line out the door on Saturdays. It was a Tuesday, gray sky, wet sidewalks, that soft hum the city gets right before a thunderstorm. When Jason walked in again, I didn't see him at first. Maya nudged me. She whispered, front corner. Table by the plant. Ex-boyfriend alert. I looked up, and there he was, Jason, wearing a wrinkled chambray shirt and an expression he hadn't rehearsed this time. He didn't smirk, didn't posture. He just sat there, staring at his cup like maybe it would say something instead of him. He didn't order it from me. Claudia served him. I watched from behind the espresso machine, hands steady as I tamped the grounds. He took one sip then just sat. For nearly an hour. Didn't look around. Didn't talk to anyone. Just watched the rain through the window like he was hoping it might wash something clean. When he finally stood, he walked to the counter. Slowly. No swagger. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. Silence. He looked around again, eyes landing on a framed photo of my team, Claudia, Maya, Maggie, me. This place is amazing, he said. Thanks. You did it. I did. Another pause. He looked down. I screwed up, he said quietly. Not just with you. With everything. I thought I could run that place on vibes and charm. Turns out charm doesn't restock milk or build a customer base. I didn't say anything. Just let the words hang in the air, like steam rising off hot coffee. I kept trying to fix it, he added. But everything felt off without you. The soul was gone. I was the hollow one. His eyes met mine. I'm sorry. It didn't hit me like I thought it would. There was no vindication. No rush of finally he gets it. Just a strange still quiet inside me. I nodded. Thanks for saying that. He waited. Maybe for more. Maybe hoping I'd crack a smile. Offer some closure ribboned in warmth. Instead, I reached behind me, pulled a paper cup from the stack, and filled it with our house tea. Chamomile and orange peel. Gentle. Calming. My grandmother's favorite. I slid it across the counter. This one's on the house. His face softened. He took it like a peace offering. Like a final page. Take care, Elena. You too, Jason. And then he walked out. No music swelled. No dramatic exit. Just the sound of the door chime and rain. Claudia looked at me once he was gone. That felt biblical. I laughed. Kind of did. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. He never came back after that. I assume he moved, or maybe just faded into someone else's story. But every now and then I'll see a La Marzocco machine listed online beat up, overpriced, and I'll smile. Because I didn't have to destroy him. I just had to outgrow him. Months passed. The city turned warm again. People started sitting outside, reading dog-eared novels, walking in with sunburned cheeks and ordering cold brews like salvation. Lenny's had become that place. The one where first dates happened, where students wrote term papers, where an elderly man named Mr. Green came in every Thursday with a chessboard and dared strangers to sit across from him. And me? I was different too. More rooted. More sure of my voice. I wore aprons with flour still on them and didn't apologize for the mess. I spoke up in meetings with vendors. I said no when I needed to. And I started mentoring. It began with Maya. She was quiet, observant, always scribbling flavor combos on sticky notes and tucking them into her apron pocket like secrets. One night after closing, she stayed behind while I balanced the register. Do you think, she asked softly, that I could ever open a place like this? I turned to her. You mean your own shop? She nodded. Someday. I don't know if I have what it takes. I laughed gently. Neither did I. You just start before you're ready and hope like hell your heart outruns your fear. I pulled out a notebook and started writing down everything I wish someone had told me before I started. Licensing steps. Equipment hacks. My contact at the bakery co-op. Here, I said, handing it to her. We'll build it together. One page at a time. That was the first. But not the last. Word spread. Young women, baristas, culinary students, side-hustling bakers, started reaching out. I began holding small workshops on Sundays. We'd close early, push tables together, and dive into real talk about business. How to negotiate a lease without getting steamrolled. How to fire someone with respect. How to say I made this without flinching. I called the group Second Roast. Because everyone deserves another chance to bloom. One day, I passed by the old location of the Hollow. It was boarded up. Windows dusty. The lease sign faded and curling in the sun. I stood there for a minute, just long enough to remember the sound of Jason's laugh echoing through that space. The way I used to sweep those floors at midnight while he charmed the regulars. It didn't sting. Not anymore. It just felt like a past life. A burnt field. Where something new had grown. It happened on a Wednesday. A woman in a navy suit and bold red lipstick walked into Lenny's and changed everything. She ordered a dirty chai, took one sip, and her eyes lit up. "Who owns this place?" she asked. "I do," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. She stuck out her hand. "Valerie Tran. I'm a producer with the City Table docuseries. We feature small businesses that are doing something different. Mind if I sit?" 2 months later, a film crew rolled into our little cafe like a circus. Cameras. Boom mics. Clipboards with my name printed in 14 points Arial. They filmed everything: Claudia drawing hearts in latte foam, Maya flipping almond croissants in the oven, me at the register, laughing with a customer who just told me her toddler now says, "Lenny's," before she says, "Mama." It felt unreal. Like someone had pulled back a curtain and said, "See? You made something that matters." When the episode aired, our website crashed. Orders quadrupled. I had to hire 3 new people and buy a second fridge. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Thick envelope. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note from Jason's mom. "Elena, I saw the episode. I just wanted you to know, I always knew it was you. You were the one with the fire. Jason, he never understood how lucky he was. I hope you're happy. I really do." It took me a full hour to read that simple paragraph. I didn't reply, but I kept the letter. Not because I needed her validation, because it marked the last tiny ember. After that, the fire was out. And in its place? Sunlight. That summer, we opened a second location. Not flashy. Just a clean, bright corner shop across town. Different neighborhood, same heart. We called it Lenny's East. The first sale was a single black coffee and a lemon shortbread cookie. The receipt tape from that day? I framed it. It hangs in the hallway between the kitchen and the office. A reminder. From nothing to this. By fall, Lenny's East had its own rhythm. New regulars. New rituals. A man who brought his grandkids every Saturday for Story Muffin Hour. A high school poetry club that met by the window every Thursday, always leaving behind napkins scribbled with verse. Sometimes I'd stand between both shops, my original and the new one, and just breathe it all in. This is mine. Not stolen, not shared. Mine. And then, one afternoon while restocking espresso cups, I got the final piece. Maya came in from her break, eyes wide. You need to see this." She held out her phone. Craigslist. La Marzocco Linea, used, fair condition, needs minor repair. Posted by J.R. $2,000 OBO. It was the same machine. The one Jason and I had picked out together, after arguing in a warehouse for 2 hours about pre-infusion and boiler stability. It had been the one thing he wouldn't let go of when we split. And now he was pawning it off. Cheap. Quiet. Desperate. I didn't message him. I didn't buy it. But I took a screenshot. Saved it in a folder labeled Full Circle. A few weeks later, a new cafe opened near where the Hollow used to be. Big money behind it. Sleek branding. Cold steel counters and $8 pour-overs. People asked if I was worried. I wasn't. Because you can't franchise soul. You can't fake community. And Lenny's? We weren't just selling coffee. We were anchoring people. Then one morning a woman came in, maybe 23, nervous, holding a small leather notebook. She introduced herself, her name was Bree. She wanted advice. "I have this idea," she said, fingers clutching the spiral like a lifeline. "For a cafe. But with a little library corner. For people who don't feel like they belong anywhere." I smiled. "Tell me everything." Bree stayed for 3 hours that day. By the time she left, her notebook was covered in scribbles, margins full of brainstorms, budgets, names of furniture suppliers, flavor pairings. I handed her one last sticky note as she packed up. It said, "You don't have to prove you're ready. You just have to begin." She read it, then hugged me like I'd handed her a life raft. As she walked out the door, I felt it, the same hum I'd felt that very first day at Lenny's. The one where I had no idea if anyone would show up. The one where I'd already decided it didn't matter. Because this was never about proving Jason wrong. It was about proving myself right. A year after Jason walked out of Lenny's with that paper cup of tea, I opened my third location. Same name. Same logo. Same soul. People ask me sometimes at panels and interviews, even at the register, if I ever confronted him. If I ever gave him a piece of my mind. But here's the truth. I didn't burn his business down. I just lit mine brighter, and the ashes came to me on their own. I used to think revenge had to be loud, explosive, a dramatic reckoning. But the best kind? It's quiet, intentional, laced with growth and garnished with peace. The kind where you're too busy living well to notice the wreckage behind you until someone else tells you the smoke's finally cleared. And by then, you're already onto your next recipe. Here's what I learned. Never hand your power to someone just because they smile while taking it. Paper cups can serve dignity just as well as porcelain. And sometimes the most beautiful thing you can build is the life they thought you couldn't.